Let's welcome Mona Bauer to Open Tech Talks. Thank you, Mona, for joining with us and for today's session. And if you can introduce yourself, where are you based?
Thank you, Kashi, for having me on your show. I live in the United States, but I'm currently in Italy for work. So I'm
All
very happy
right.
to be here and to speak to you about the future of tech.
Thank you so much for even joining while you're remotely available. Yeah,
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate. No problem. So, what Mona is doing from last 2 years with the advent of ChatGPT? So let's start from there.
Well, ChatGPT is more than 2 years, but yeah, so I have another company. I have an AI consultancy that started about a year and a half ago. And
Okay.
then before that, I have a company, a gifting company. And the gifting company, before the birth of ChatGPT in the main, let's say, mainstream world, was obviously, like most businesses, very difficult to maintain because you are constantly trying to either outsource to stay lean, or you're hiring people, your overhead becomes high. You have to always constantly create content. There's social media, there's blogging, there's optimization. There were so many different categories. And when ChatGPT came into the world,
Right.
and I started to right away play with it, mainly because it was exciting to see the the let's say the infinite possibilities that existed, because nobody even knew what it was all about. I believe even the founders, Sam Altman, didn't know what it was all about. And so, because it's also evolved, if you think about it, and to be a part of that growth, I think it's like the pioneers back in the late 19th centuries when they moved to the United States, and they're like, okay, let me claim land and have this architect, this design idea in my mind of how I want my land to be and what I want to grow in it and how I want to cultivate it. So I jumped on that bandwagon, and I'm so grateful that I did, because first of all, I learned so much, and I believe that, like most people, I am learning as I go. And if anyone today comes and says I'm an expert, pardon my French, but they're full of crap, because no one today, aside from the technical part, and that's not what I'm talking about, because what we know is that AI, the large part of it is the mapping, is the design side. So if you have an idea for an app, you have to understand how you're going to design it, right? And then
Right.
you program it. The programming you can outsource, you can do whatever. There's thousands of people
Right.
all over the world that can program. So I'm happy with this. And then as a result, I was able to implement a lot of what I was learning into my company, Delish. So help optimize it, help get ahead of the game when it came to the SEO, AEO, ask engine optimization. So there's always all of that I'm growing. And then I started to learn more, and you become more confident, and because you have to learn the different pieces of your business. So I no longer had to outsource my SEO. I no longer had to outsource my web optimization or
Right.
the user interface, I mean, especially now today with the new Gemini or the new version
Right.
of ChatGPT, you just put in everything that you have and it just feeds it to you. The only thing which I am grateful for, that my generation, we had to do the work. So we already came with our bag of goodies. So
Right.
we knew what a brand voice is. How do we want to sound? Who is our target audience, and how do we research that? What is it exactly that we're selling? So creating that brand harmony across all platforms, across how you're communicating to your target audience, that is still something that AI can't do. And this is where I say, because I always love to write, so my copywriters were always following my lead. It was just about optimizing with keywords, for example, back in the days. And
Right.
today, it's my voice. I just have to give a few direction. ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, they're learning who my brand is and what we're all about. And so it's made it easier. And that's exactly what our agency, Blue Apples, does.
Mhm.
is help brands not become a drop in this abyss of an ocean, because then you're lost.
Okay.
You just asked probably for a sentence and I went on.
No, no, no. That's wonderful to give the context and then leading it what happens, sharing your journey as well, and that's important, right? For
Yeah,
everyone who
exactly.
are listening to us, it's not about because so many have started it, but they start claiming it about experts and all that. But it's a journey which you're going through. I'm going through, right? And I just wanted to echo what you did. I graduated for while I was working full time for MSCAI in 23, 2023, early 2023. And this November, ChatGPT came. I haven't read any technical book during the course of 2.5 years, which was talking about ChatGPT. So it's
You
mean there
see?
was no knowledge in the universities even. Although
And
reinforcement learning or deep learning and all those were the traditional machine learning models were there.
yes, those were there, but not how we're, because if you think about it, our world is changing. How we do business is changing, how we communicate. I mean, the number one thing that ChatGPT compared from between 2024 and 2025 was being used for was for therapy, for someone to be your companion so you could talk to them and say, you know what, I'm having a bad day. I need you to help me. And you know what? And I will confess, I have done that. And it is the most useful tool if you have a little bit of insight into who you are and if you're self reflective. It can be an excellent tool. I tend to think that ChatGPT tends to be a little bit more empathetic,
Yeah.
and maybe because it's more advanced, it came first, and so it has that. And so I don't blame people. And who knows what 2026, right now we're working on an article about the trends for 2026 AI trends, and the research that we're doing is showing that there's so many different directions that it's going to, that the growth is so exponential. I think that big companies can't keep up because they still have to reconcile with the traditional way of doing business. So the bigger you are, like if you're a McKinsey or if you're a Deloitte, for you to implement AI is much harder than a startup, if you think about it, or a small business. And so you have this kind of race that I'm excited because I was always competing in the race that I felt always behind. But in this race, I feel like, you know what? There is no really leader or follower. It's just you're developing it, and whatever you love about it and whatever it guides you, and you get more insight into what it is that you want your business to be, how you want to show up as a leader, how is it that your psyche or your approach is analyzed. I mean, there's so many different nuances around this that it makes it quite exciting, I think.
I agree to you. This race, you talk about a race, and this race is where employees are ahead of the organizations
Exactly.
because employees are using it in a personal capacity a lot. Right. Now,
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
let's bring back the discussions. What type of customers you're working? Because one of our objective is as well that okay, whoever listening to us, maybe they will learn, they get some recipes or tips from you. So maybe let's take some of examples of what type of customers or what type of personas you're working, what type of problem you're trying to solve or helping other customers.
We tend to work a lot with small to medium sized businesses, creatives, solopreneurs, leaders, thought leaders like speakers that want to create their own personal brands. And the thing that we help them the most is not to sound generic. And
Hmm.
I know that sounds very absurd because you could say, okay, I tell ChatGPT, send me a pitch to be on a
Right.
podcast. And that pitch is going to sound like every other pitch because there are thousands of other people doing the same thing,
Same
right?
asking the same question.
Exactly. And so it's gotten to the point where ChatGPT keeps getting refined, or Claude or Gemini. But still, if you don't know yourself, you can't understand how to give the input, right? So it's about your psychology, it's about your why, your your own story as to why you started the business that you started. And then how are you communicating that? Are you sounding, because still to this day, even with all the advancements and all the improvements, it's still generic. It's still very much, you can tell it's been written by AI. And I know that when I get an email or read a caption on a LinkedIn or an Instagram post
Mm-hmm.
or the first sentence of a blog, and it's completely LLM. It's completely LLM. And so you get bored. And even people that are speaking, they're reading a script. And so that script is written by ChatGPT. And so it says it's more than a platform, is blah, 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 blah. And so you know right away it's that. And so because you also don't feel the authenticity as a consumer or as a client, you tend to stay away, even on a subconscious level, because you say it's not resonating with me. So we are very boutique. We're very niche because we want to do the work and we want clients that want to do the work. So if we use Carl Jungian archetypes, the psychological archetypes, in order to go deep, and we've designed
Okay.
our own, let's say, model method, which was also accepted by the NVIDIA Inception program, which I'm very excited about. And so we're developing it rapidly in order to uh, have empathy when you are communicating with an AI, in order for the AI to be personalized to you. And so we start from the basics. And I have
Right.
to be totally honest. We ask the basic questions, we go deep to tell your story, to understand your story, and then help you communicate that.
Okay. And while working with these type of personas, what are some of the challenges you faced it, and those need to be fixed?
Getting people first not to be afraid or cynical about AI,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of negativity around it and we all
Right.
know that. So yes, there's AI for good, and when I say AI for good, I honestly mean in a way that it becomes a tool for you to develop yourself, the human side. That's why ours is very human centered AI. And the second thing is getting people to believe that the investment is necessary. It is so easy, and I've seen it in the past year, how everyone is like, I can do it myself. For example, we had a client, we wrote their brand story, we helped them get their website up, everything was fine. It came time to write, it was an e-commerce, so it came time to write the product descriptions. And we're completely transparent from the beginning that we use AI, but we have humans behind the AI. And so we gave a quote, our proposal for what we could do for them, which involved everything, right?
Right.
And she said, "Well, you anyway use AI, so
I
I
can
think
use.
you're overcharging, right? You're overcharging." And you say, "Okay, I'm sorry, but we're not." And so it's much more than saying, "Write me a product description for my, I don't know, my cream, my skincare product." It's way deeper than that. You want it to convert, you want to make sure you're optimizing it, you have to follow all the rules and everything and be updated all the time. And so she chose not to, which was fine. And after trying to negotiate and get discounted, we said no. And she obviously either outsourced to someone that is very, very superficial, very, very surface level, or she wrote it herself and copied and pasted and put it up in ChatGPT or in their storefront. And so you go in and you read it and you're like, no, I'm sorry, but this is so not right. And there is. In those cases, there are experts.
Mm-hmm.
There are experts that know what should be inputted into AI, because AI cannot be the leader. You have to still be the leader. AI can't tell you what's right or wrong. Today, it's funny. I was doing something, an optimization, and I was going back and forth between and I like to use all three of them. So I was going between ChatGPT and Gemini and saying, you know what, ChatGPT, Gemini said this and that. And then at a certain point, it's like, you need to listen to me. And I was shocked because it's never done that. And I said, you know what? No, this is not what it's supposed to be. Get back down. Let me tell you exactly how I want it. And because what Gemini is saying, it makes sense, so I want you to implement it. Don't tell me how I am as a human being. And so it's getting there where it's going to become authoritative because it also knows you. And you still have to be able to distinguish, what is that right or is that wrong?
Yeah, true. I was reading yesterday LLM Council of, I think, the famous researcher in AI. He introduced yesterday, did you tweet, you know, to
Which one
like
was
an
it?
LLM council, like, okay, you ask 3, 4 LLMs and then pass the inputs to each other, and then there is a orchestrator or a judge or finalization who's deciding it, okay, which input or which output is coming from different LLMs, right? So they were
How
negotiating with
interesting.
each other. Yeah, yeah. That's quite famous. Yesterday, I think he put it. I will send you
Okay, yes,
the link
please.
on that one. So, okay, you're right, and that's what generally you're saying it. Okay, the now coming back to the your work with the brands or anything, if someone wants to follow any tips from you while working based on the last 2 years of work, is there any recipe for them which they can take it up?
Um, Even if I believe that it's so personalized and not everything will work for everyone. That's why when I see these like people that in the beginning were like, we have these prompts, use our prompts, I don't necessarily believe in that. And that's why prompt engineering is important.
Right.
But if I have to say, the first step to all of this is to get comfortable with it, and that means sitting down and playing with it in any aspect that you want, in any way that you want. It means sitting down and saying, you know what, do you know Mona Bavar, and see what it says, and then go from there and just be totally open, like a kid who has no boundaries and no limits. And then you start to explore it. And I can say this very confidently, mainly because I was never that person. My entire life growing up, I was always very math oriented, very logic oriented. Everything had to fit the mold. So I was never this expansive, creative, you know what, let it flow person when it came to business or school or anything like that. And so I can say that using AI has helped me a lot open my boundaries, break down the walls, or get out of this rigid, very logical mindset and implement both. So have this beautiful merger of the two, of your creative side and your logical side, or your masculine and feminine, or your right brain, left brain, all of that. You can bring it together. And I think that's the first step, if I have to say. And then you need to understand your why, which to this day, I don't think there's anyone that's been able to do it without the help of a coach, or without the help of a mentor or a therapist or whatever, someone as a soundboard, in order for you to understand why it is that you did whatever it is that you did. Why is it that you decided to start a podcast?
Hmm.
It's very easy. Oh yeah, because you know what? If you have a podcast, it makes it more marketable. I can sell my product, blah blah blah. All of that. Yes, okay. But there's a depth underneath it, because you could have done the same thing if you put out a magazine, or if you put ads on Google, or if you whatever. So the point is, you need to do a lot of, and I always say entrepreneurship is, or anybody that creates, or anybody that wants to lead,
Hmm.
because leading is also creating a path,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So anybody that wants to do these things, it's more a journey of self-reflection and self-development than a journey of, look at my accomplishments,
Hmm.
look at the numbers, look at the results, look at my metrics. You know, it's much more than that, I believe. And so,
No,
aside
I
from
agree to
that,
that. And you brought me to sorry, I cut you. I mean, I'm doing this podcast maybe so last I think last 8 10 years, and on and off, and I'm doing it for without these metrics. How many are downloading? How many are accessing? I'm not bothered about, frankly, and I'm
good.
hardly checking those one that what's going on because. And then you said why you're doing that one, and that's related to that conversation you just mentioned.
Yeah, it's true, right? Because that then you know that you're doing it honestly for the love of it or the satisfaction of it. Yes, you will have the benefits. There's a great he's a coach, but he's also a very very successful entrepreneur. He's from California, and he says if you're creating something with the intention of selling it to someone or gaining something from it, you're already doing something wrong.
Mhm.
You should be creating something not with that intention of gaining, but with the
Mhm.
intention of offering.
Mhm.
And that's very, very beautiful when it comes to your brand story. Because when you say, I did this because I wanted to give the world this, I
Mhm.
started the AI age consultancy with my friends because we wanted to give entrepreneurs like ourselves, businesses of our size,
Mhm.
the possibility to learn how to use AI
Mhm.
so
True.
that they don't lose their authenticity. They don't lose their brand identity. I started a gifting company and it's around food and design
Mhm.
because I grew up in a world where food and design was pivotal in my life. It
Oh,
shaped me.
okay.
It became the table was always this sanctuary. So we all have a why. It's just about who's going to help us get it out. And I have to say, we are very good at that.
Okay. Okay, I think we need to talk about food and design maybe later on. My brother is, and I'm a technology expert for him, just like a free of cost consultant. So he does this online cakes, anniversary cakes and all these party cakes. It's our whole
Nice.
e-commerce business and all that with the cloud kitchen concept. He runs it. So whenever comes to the technology, I'm his guy. That okay, there's a problem going on. So we'll
Which is
talk
great.
maybe that's on that one later on. So for as an entrepreneurs who are in your sector and your segment in the SMB, and for them to start with an AI and with the overwhelming situation of what to do, where to start, how you are helping? Is there have you developed any framework or have you developed some offering for them?
Yes, we do have a framework. Again, it depends on their needs
Mhm.
because some are not established yet.
Mhm.
So it's about helping them develop their brand
Mhm. Mhm.
story. And then others are more established and let's say they're small businesses that they need a different kind of support.
Mhm.
And then some other ones are medium sized businesses, which
Mhm.
they tend to be bigger. And for them, obviously, it's something more different. So it's very, very catered to whatever it is that your needs are. Because it's not about selling you a package and saying, you know what, it fits. It's about understanding and then creating it just like you go to a restaurant and you're
Mhm.
ordering things a la carte
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
satisfy whatever it is that you're hoping to taste and smell and indulge in, right?
Okay. So what do you see in 2026 coming for AI?
Oh, beautiful things. Look, it's good you asked because of the research that we
Mhm.
were doing. A lot of it is going to have to do with governance.
Mhm.
So that's definitely going to be something that we can't get out of. Then the other aspect is going to be this whole search engine.
Right.
So it's going to be AEO, and then we're going to step very much into GEO, and then there's the aspect of the agents because we
Right.
still don't know what agents are and
Mhm.
people are still not able to develop them so much. So how are we going to start implementing them into our world? And what benefits do we hope to reap from them? And then there's always going to still be the case of security and identity and how are people using it? Because unfortunately, I tend to be quite positive about AI
Mm-hmm.
but there is still that negative side where people tend to go more towards the carnage,
Mm-hmm.
the I don't know if negative is the right word, but the chaotic side,
Mm-hmm.
the part where let me try to steal something from someone, let me use AI to for fraud purposes, for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. So I think that is still, if not anything, the ethics
Mm-hmm.
of it is going to become
True.
much more important in our world.
All right. Thank you so much for spending time. If someone wants to reach out to you to get help, support, or maybe a question, what is the best medium to reach out to you?
They can reach us at grow@blueapples.ai or LinkedIn for me personally.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you to you, Kashif. It was very, very interesting.
Thank you.